You're putting every single one of us at risk. Just know that, Rick.
You think about your son, the message that you're giving him. Shoot first, think later.
You said you support me.
I do.
But you didn't say you think I'm making the right call.
You don't know what we've had to go through out there. Things we've had to do. I bet you've had to do some of those same things yourself, am I right?
We're not safe with him. Do something.
I am doing something. I'm keeping this group together, alive.
I've been doing that all along.
No matter what. I didn't ask for this.
You could save your son, save your daughter, everyone you know.
Nightmares end. They shouldn't end. Who you are.
The war's over, Rick.
No, we don't know that.
I'm talking about you.
Something happened. That ain't you.
I don't know you, but I think I'm getting the idea.
We push ourselves to let things go. And then we let some more go, and some more. Pretty soon there's things we can't get back. Things we couldn't hold on to even if we tried. And you're gonna find yourself in a place where it's like how it used to be. And if you let too much go along the way, that's not gonna work.
I wanted to kill her. I remember I just wondered if it even mattered, one way or another.
The fight's over. You gotta let it go. I know it's hard. After it's kept you warm and fed, alive, but the fight, it turns on you. You gotta let it go.
What to risk? When it's safe? When to let someone in? The rules keep changing.
Something's gonna happen. Just don't make something happen.
What's going on, Walking Dead fam, fellow Rashoners and shippers alike? It's your girl Lynn here with part 2 of the series, The Rise and Fall of Savage Rick. Before we get started, do me a favor and smash those like and subscribe buttons and hit the notification bell so you will be alerted whenever I drop new content. Now that we have the housekeeping out of the way, let's jump into the subject of this video. In Season 5, Episode 2, Strangers, we see our group on the road. We've seen this before, but this time it's different. Rick is different. There is a terrifying calm about him now, a coldness that drapes his shoulders, and the steel blue eyes that once portrayed hope, empathy, and mercy are now virulent. He is leading the group with urgency in every step, almost as if he knows exactly where he's headed. During a moment of rest, Rick has a conversation with Carol.
I owe you everything.
Tyrese, he was at the prison.
I still don't know about what you did. But I know you knew some things I didn't. I sent you away to this.
You said I could survive. You were right.
They make camp one night, and like Rick, Daryl's sense for danger has been heightened by the recent events. And he tells Rick the next day that he felt like they were being watched, but when he searched for tracks, he found nothing. Later, while walking through the woods, they hear someone yelling for help. Carl insists on going to the rescue, and everyone soon follows. They encounter a priest, Gabriel, and after saving him from several walkers, Rick becomes fixated on this new stranger.
What have you done? We've all done something.
I'm a sinner. I sin almost every day. But those sins, I confess them to God. Not strangers.
Gabriel tells Rick that he has a church and leads the group back to it. He says that he has been alone from the start and only recently ventured out when he ran out of food. Once inside the church, we get shots of different signs and messages gracing the walls. But the most profound is, "And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up." We also get pictures of a burning bush and another that says 40 years of wandering. And wandering was something Rick and his people were all too familiar with. Gabriel tells them of a food bank in town that he has not been able to go in because it's overrun. He offers to draw a map, but Rick tells him there was no need to, because Gabriel was going with them.
I don't trust this guy. And
Why? Why do you trust him?
Everybody can't be bad.
This new philosophy from Rick is not surprising. The savage within and the events of the recent past made him realize that no one is safe, no matter how good things seem in the moment. Carl tells him that he's right, but the group was strong enough to still help people. Rick heads off to the food bank with a small group consisting of Bob, Michonne, Sasha, and Gabriel. While walking, Bob takes the opportunity to talk to Rick and literally foretells his near future.
We push ourselves to let things go. And then we let some more go, and some more, and pretty soon there's things we can't get back. Things we couldn't hold on to even if we tried. And you're gonna find yourself in a place where it's like how it used to be. And if you let too much go along the way, that's not gonna work.
By now, just about everyone has gotten a glimpse of the new Rick, and in their own way, they were attempting to remind him of the man that he truly was. After arriving at the food bank, the group comes up with a plan to kill the walkers who had fallen through the floor and were surrounding the food they came for. Things are going as planned until Gabriel is spooked by a walker, a woman he once knew. Rick goes after Gabriel while Bob is pulled under the water and saved by Sasha.
Are you okay?
I'm fine now.
When they return to the church, Carl shows his dad some deep scratches and a message carved into the side of the church.
Doesn't mean Gabriel's a bad guy for sure, but it means something.
This only confirms Rick's first impression of the priest. That night, everyone is sitting around having an apocalyptic Last Supper before the inevitable shit hits the fan. Abe gives a toast and Eugene tells everyone how he will save the world once they get to DC. And after a short moment of contemplation, Rick says that him and his group will go with Abraham. And beside him, Michonne looks relieved. Later, Rick tells Gabriel that he knows he's hiding something, and if what he's hiding hurts his family in any way, he will kill him. While this is happening, we get Tara confessing to Maggie that she was at the prison with the governor. Carol and Daryl have left to chase after a vehicle that took Beth, and Bob has gone for a walk when he's hit from behind. When he comes to, he sees Gareth staring down at him. Gareth gives him a ridiculous speech about not wanting to do horrible things, but it's what he has to do. It's what his group has to do to survive. It's not long before Bob realizes that the Terminus survivors are eating his leg right in front of him. Bob eventually starts to laugh and tells them that he's been bit.
David me!
Shut up.
You intended me! Shut up!
Back at the church, everyone realizes that Bob, Daryl, and Carol are missing, and they accuse Gabriel of having something to do with it. The priest breaks down and confesses to leaving his congregation to die because he was afraid. After this, the group hear whistling from outside, and they go to investigate. They find Bob laying in the grass with a painted A drawn in blood on the church exterior, once again reminding us all of who Rick and his people are at the core.
It was that guy, Gareth.
After this revelation, a look of quiet rage spreads across Rick's face, and you can tell that he's thinking back to that moment in the forest when he told his people that they needed to go after Gareth, and he allowed himself to be talked down. And now, because of his failure to neutralize a threat, Bob had been kidnapped and maimed. Bob tells Rick what Gareth says happened to Daryl and Carol, and while this conversation is going on, Abe interrupts and says that he has to extract Eugene and that they all should leave.
Daryl and Carol are gonna be back. We're not going anywhere without them.
You leaving on foot? We fixed that damn bus ourselves.
There are a lot more of us.
In Rick's mind, Abraham, Rosita, and Eugene were still strangers, and he owed them nothing. Just as they're about to come to blows over whether or not Abe will be taking the only form of transportation the group had, Glenn and Tara jump between them and they promise to go with Abe if he would just stay one more day to help. Rick later goes over a plan of attack and the newcomers question whether or not the plan will work. Now, we've all seen members of Rick's group question his decisions before and it got to him. However, this time he is unfazed by doubt.
Remember what these people are capable of.
Rick leads a mission to the school that Bob said Gareth and his people were camped at, while Gareth and his people break into the church and the former leader of Terminus does another song and dance trying to get those who are left at the church to come out of their hiding places. He even tries to entice Gabriel to give the group up, and in return, they will let him walk. In this moment, we see Eugene take notice of a sign that says, Stupidity is also a gift from God, but one mustn't misuse it. Gareth and his people are playing a dangerously stupid game, and they are about to win the ultimate stupid prize.
Put your guns on the floor.
Rick will fire right into that office, so you lower your gun.
Rick orders them to their knees and has a long overdue conversation with Gareth. The backdrop of this scene wasn't lost on me. I mean, Rick, the savior of his people, standing in front of the church's stained glass window about to hand down some righteous justice. Gareth tells Rick that if he lets them go, they will never cross paths again.
But you cross someone's path. You do this to anyone, right? Besides, I already made you a promise.
Rick, Michonne, Abe, and Sasha put an end to the last remnants of Terminus, with the rest of the group staring on in horror. The next day, everyone says goodbye to Bob, and Bob asks Rick to stay for a moment.
I just want to say thank you.
For what?
Before the prison, I didn't know if there were any good people left. You took me in. You took people in. Nightmares end. They shouldn't end who you are. And that is just this dead man's opinion.
Even though the Savage had taken over and chained the sheriff of King County in its place, Bob knew that the better part of Rick was still inside, and he urged him to find that man again. Later, Abe gives Rick a map of the route he will take to DC and asks Rick to follow, and leaves an apology to his newfound friend. That night, Daryl returns with a young man named Noah. We find out that Carol has been taken by a group of cops who reside in a hospital in Atlanta. During the episodes Slaptown, Self-Help, and Consumed, we see what happened after Beth was taken.
The man I was with, is he here too?
You were alone. If we hadn't saved you, you'd be one of them right now. So you owe us.
We find out that Eugene has been lying the entire time.
You may want to leave me here, but...
Hey! Come on! Get off of him!
And we also see how Daryl and Carol met Noah. After arriving in Atlanta and laying low in a factory near the hospital, Rick goes over his plan of attack with the rest of the group, and we see new aspects of the Savage mindset that he has taken on. He tells them that they must keep the upper hand, and if that meant bloodshed, so be it. Tyrese is taken aback by this and proposes that they take a couple of cops prisoner and make an exchange, and he says that no one has to die. Daryl, having already sensed the shift in their leader's personality, agrees with Tyrese, and their plea seemingly stays Rick's hand. We can see it in Rick's eyes. The Savage was thirsty after feasting on Gareth and the rest of the Terminus survivors, and his thirst needed to be quenched. Later, after attempting Tyrese's plan and capturing 3 of the officers, he has a conversation with one of them.
Thanks, Sergeant Lamson.
My name's Bob.
You're still a cop.
No. No, the real ones are all gone.
We get this look from Rick. It's fleeting, but it's a moment of self-realization. He wasn't a sheriff anymore, just a survivor trying to keep his family alive. Sasha is left alone with the officer, who ends up knocking Sasha out and escaping. Rick goes after him. He warns him to stop, but the officer just keeps going, and Rick hits him with the car. Now, Rick didn't have to do what he did, but like I said, the Savage was thirsty, and it didn't matter where the blood came from. Bob tells him that he's crazy and to take him back to the hospital. We again hear Rick repeat one of his foe's sentiments. He tells Officer Bob that after this, no. Can't go back, Bob.
And you've been out here too long. You'll die. You'll all... Shut up.
This is the first time that Rick takes a life unjustly. And with the murder of this officer, the Savage has started Rick down a dangerous path. Back at the factory, Rick brushes off his actions when he's speaking to Daryl, and he simply says he wouldn't stop. The two officers left tell Rick that if he does the trade, they will tell Don that Lamson was killed by rotters. Rick reluctantly agrees to the plan that everyone wanted, and they set up the exchange. While this is happening, the church has been overrun, and Abe and the others return just in time to rescue Michonne and the others. Back at the hospital, the trade has been made, and Rick's group starts to leave, when Don, in an attempt to save face in front of her people, says that Noah belongs to her, and he has to stay. Rick lets her know that that's not happening, but before things go completely left, Noah says he will stay. Beth hugs him, and then approaches Don, and says, "I get it now." She stabs Don in the shoulder, and Don on reflex shoots and kills Beth. Daryl in turn beats Rick to the punch and kills Don. With the blood of Beth fresh on Rick's face and neck, the former Rick came to the forefront.
If you want to come with us, just step forward now.
But he wouldn't and couldn't stay for long. When no one else takes him up on his offer, he and his people leave the hospital and are met by the rest of their group, who have just arrived. As the group deals with this new loss, we see that Morgan has unwittingly been hot on Rick's trail. He stumbles upon the now abandoned church and finds the map that Abe gave Rick and the message asking him to come to Washington. In episode 9, What Happened and What's Going On, we see the group trying to fulfill Beth's last wish of getting Noah home. At this point, it has become a cycle of wash, rinse, repeat. It was no surprise that when they arrived at Noah's home, the Shireville states that it had fallen. Michonne is deflated at the reality of the situation, and Rick can sense her mood.
Clean shirt.
Figure it out.
We will.
You didn't think it would still be here?
Did you?
Glenn has also become cynical, and after Rick tells him what happened with Dawn and how he just wanted to kill her and it had nothing to do with Beth, Glenn says that after everything, he would have done the same, whether it was right or wrong. Rick's savage nature was spreading within the group, and Michonne instantly steps in and tells them that they have to stop, that they have been on the road for far too long. I mean, she wasn't wrong. Glenn was the only one in the group who hadn't taken a human life, and if he was willing to kill just for the sake of it, there was a possibility that they could even turn on one another at some point. She tells him that they could go to Washington, like Eugene suggested, that it was a chance. Seeing her desperation, Rick tells her they'll go to Washington, but as soon as his decision is made, a scream for help is heard. They find Noah, who tells them that while searching his house, Tyrese got bit. Michonne cuts off his arm in an effort to save him, but it's no use. Tyrese dies on the way back to the rest of their group. The third death in so short a time helps Rick to stand fast in his new being. Survival at all costs. Trust no one new. Hit first. Nowhere is safe. Episode 10, Them, is probably the most broken we've seen Rick's group thus far. We see Maggie still reeling from losing almost her entire family. Sasha within a few days has lost her boyfriend and brother. And Daryl finally succumbs to his grief over Beth. To top it all off, they are starving, thirsty, and are being followed by a group of walkers who appear just as tired as they are. Tensions are high when the group finally stops to deal with the walkers. Sasha, who is free-falling mentally, breaks away from the group and starts actively killing them, instead of just letting them fall into a nearby ditch, like Rick instructed. Rick is nearly bitten, and Michonne confronts Sasha about messing up the plan and being stupid.
I truly do not know if things can get worse.
The group dynamic is starting to crack, with no end to their heartache in sight. On cue, feral dogs come out of the woods, and after Sasha kills them, Rick wastes no time making dinner out of them. Later, Daryl says that he'll go looking for water, and he comes across a barn. When he returns, Rick shows him a note and bottles of water they found in the middle of the road.
What else are we gonna do?
Not this. We don't know who left it.
Daryl tells them about the barn he found, and they settle there for the night. Rick and a few others are sitting around the campfire, and he tells them a story about his grandfather.
When I was a kid, I asked my grandpa once if he ever killed any Germans in the war. He said that was grown-up stuff, So I asked if the Germans ever tried to kill him. Every day he woke up, Told himself, rest in peace. Now get up and go to war. And then after a few years of pretending he was dead, he made it out alive. But no matter what we find in D.C., I know we'll be okay. Because this is how we survive. We tell ourselves that we are the walking dead.
This declaration doesn't sit well with Daryl, and he says, "We're not them." In the next scene, we see Daryl passing in front of the barn door entrance. Maggie takes notice and goes to help him, and soon others follow, one by one. Until this moment, the group had been drifting apart, each one enduring their personal hell. Glenn had told Daryl earlier that they could get through this, but they could only do it together. The next day, Sasha and Maggie decide to go for a walk, and they see that the trees have fallen on the invading walkers and all around the barn, but never touched them. It's like everything that they had been through and would go through couldn't destroy them, or the ideals that they held. Somehow, some way, they would always end up on the right side of things. As they sit and watch the sunrise, Maggie opens the music box that Carl had given her, and Daryl has said he repaired, but it doesn't work. And as Maggie ponders on why it's not working, a stranger approaches. He says his name is Aaron. He's a friend, and he had good news for them. In this moment, we get a sign that things might be different this time. Maggie and Sasha bring Aaron back to the barn. Everyone immediately grabs their weapons and Daryl pats him down. This new stranger proceeds to talk about his community, and he tells Rick to look at the pictures in his pack.
Together, we're strong. You can make us even stronger. The next picture, you'll see inside the gates. Our community was first constructed.
Much like the governor, Rick doesn't want to hear any talk of hope or sanctuary and tells everyone to get ready because Aaron's people were coming for them. Aaron tells Rick he understands his skepticism, but that he could trust him, and that he knew for a fact that Rick was a good person, that they were all good people. When Rick still refuses to listen even after it's confirmed that Aaron was telling the truth about he and his partner's vehicles being blocked by fallen trees, Michonne steps in.
If he were lying, or if he wanted to hurt us, but he isn't. And he doesn't. We need this. So we're going, all of us.
Once again, Rick listens to Michonne's counsel. She wasn't just thinking about herself or their friends. She was thinking of his children. Rick decides that they will take a different route than Aaron advised for the sake of safety.
We'll take 23 north. You'll give us directions from there.
I don't know how else to say it. That's a bad idea. We've cleared 16. No one is going to hurt you. You're trying to protect your group, but you're putting them in danger.
Rick is again being warned that this road you're on, or this path you're taking, it's not going to work out. As they're traveling down Rick's chosen path, they encounter walkers, and the group gets separated. When they meet back up, Glenn and the others have found Eric, Aaron's partner, and being grateful for this, Aaron tells them the name of his community, Alexandria. While everyone looks hopeful, Rick still doesn't and can't trust this stranger.
But if we're staying here for the night, you're sleeping over there.
You really think we gotta do that?
That's the safe play. We don't know you.
The only way you're gonna stop me from being with him right now is by shooting me.
I want us to be safe too. We can't give up everything else. I know what I said. But it does matter.
Rick again relents to please his people. As they make their way towards Alexandria the next day, he is warned by Michonne, who could see very clearly what was happening to him. She tells him to let the fight go, that it would eventually turn on him. Rick says that he's not sure when to trust anymore because the rules of their reality keep changing. She agrees and says that they changed for her too. Right now, even though he values Michonne and her advice, he can't bring himself to let the fight go. The savage within couldn't let it go. So before they come to the gates of Alexandria, he hides a gun inside of an old blender just in case things went left, like they always did. Carol tells him that even though he was wrong, he was right, because like him, she had no desire to go back to who she had been. Rick later meets Deanna Monroe, the town's leader, and she interviews him. She asks what he had done before, and Rick replies that he didn't think it mattered anymore. And he also tells her that she should keep her gates closed because it's all about survival now. Like Aaron and others in Rick's group, Deanna could see the real Rick Grimes and turns the tables on him. She asks, "Are you already trying to protect this place? It sounds like I want to be a part of your family." She also says that she knows Rick can help the people of Alexandria survive. After their talk, Rick is shown 2 homes that his people can have, and he and the others save Daryl groom themselves. He washes away the grime of his time on the road and shaves his beard. A resident, Jesse, gives him a haircut, finalizing his complete physical journey back to the old sheriff.
I get why we're playing it safe. We should. I have a good feeling about this place.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, me too.
Still on guard, he tells the group that they will be staying together in one house for now. In his mind, these strangers were trying to split them up. The next few nights while the others sleep, Rick is wide awake. These new comforts made him uneasy. Things were going right, which meant that they would soon go wrong. Over the next few days, we see Carol is playing up the helpless housewife persona, Carl tries to figure out how to be a kid again, and Deanna appoints Rick and Michonne the town's constables after they break up a fight between Glenn and Deanna's son, Aiden.
You a cop again? Trying it on for size.
If we get comfortable here, we let our guard down, this place is gonna make us weak.
We won't get weak. That's not in us anymore. We'll make it work. But if they can't make it, then we'll just take this place.
In episode 13, Forget, the trio are continuing to plot outside of the abandoned home Rick hid the gun. They find the gun gone and a walker with a W carved into its head. For now, knowing how much this new place means to the others, especially Michonne, he tells Daryl and Carol to keep their plan between them. That night at a party hosted in his people's honor, Rick meets Deanna's husband, Reg, and Jesse's husband, Pete. The tension is immediate and palpable between him and Pete. Rick also meets Jesse's youngest son, Sam, who tells his mom that Rick doesn't have his stamp yet. To me, this is a double meaning. Rick and his people were now Alexandrians, but this was also kind of Rick's coronation, so to speak. He was being anointed the next leader. While this is happening, Daryl has decided to skip the party and has dinner with Aaron and Eric. Aaron tells him that he wants him to replace Eric as a recruiter.
Look, I've been thinking. Do we really need these? I mean, if things go bad, yeah, sure, we do what we gotta do, but it's like you said, we don't need these for that.
Right now we don't.
You wanted me to try it, right? I'm good.
Undeterred, Rick and Carol continue with the plan to steal guns from the armory. Later, as Rick is walking the streets, he notices Jessie, with whom he has taken a liking to, walking with her husband. Instinctively, he reaches behind his back and rests his hand on his gun. In episode 14, Spend, we have a few things going on. Gabriel tells Deanna that Rick and his people are angels of light and that they will destroy everything she and her people have built. Aiden dies and Tara is injured after a grenade blast. Whilst trying to get away, Nick panics and escapes out of a revolving door, causing Noah to be killed.
Talk to Sam some more. He said his mom put a bolt on the inside of his closet. Tells him to lock himself in sometimes and not come out till morning. He said he can hear his dad yelling. Things breaking, his mom crying. Last month it got quiet right in the middle of it and he went out and found her on the floor. Unconscious. Bleeding.
With this revelation, the savage was ready to feast again and just needed the opportunity to let go. With the death of her son, Deanna starts to rethink her decision to allow Rick and his people into the community after he confronts her about the situation between Jesse and Pete.
I kill him. We kill him.
We don't kill people. This is civilization, Rick.
Warning someone to stop or die, that is civilized nowadays.
Oh.
So we just let him hit her? We let him kill her?
No. We exile him, if it comes to that.
We do that. We don't know when he comes back and what he does to them.
Not being able to accept Deanna's resistance to his plan for Pete, he goes to speak to Jessie and tells her that if she wants help, all she has to do is say yes. At this moment, Pete enters the home, and when Rick tells him that he has to leave, a fight ensues and spills out onto the street with the Alexandrians looking on. Pete hits Jessie as she's trying to break up the fight, and Rick pushes Carl away when he attempts to intervene.
Kill you.
Damn it, Rick! I said stop!
For what? You gonna kick me out?
Put that gun down, Rick.
You still don't get it. None of you do. You just sit and plan and hesitate. You pretend like you know when you don't. Your way of doing things is done. Things don't get better because you want them to. Starting right now, we have to live in the real world. Your way's gonna destroy this place. It's gonna get people killed. It's already gotten people killed. And I'm not gonna stand by and just let it happen. If you don't fight, you die. I'm not gonna stand by and...
Rick is hauled off to what served as a jail cell, and he wakes up the next morning and takes a look at his surroundings and just laughs to himself.
What's so funny?
It's like the train car. After the whole thing, I'm still there.
What are you doing?
I couldn't tell you about the gun.
No, you couldn't.
Oh, you wanted this place.
We had to stop being out there.
Well, we're here.
You just said you weren't.
And there is the cause behind his transformation. Rick was still mentally trapped inside of that train car, reliving the nightmare of constant loss. This was the moment that Bob foretold. Rick had found himself in a place that was like the old world, and the nightmare was trying its best to end. But the Savage wouldn't allow it. This new persona was telling him that this is how he kept himself and his people safe. Meanwhile, Daryl and Aaron have fallen into a trap set by the feral leaders of the wolves, Owen and Edward. They are rescued by Morgan and soon find out that he is looking for Rick. Nick lures Glenn into the woods and tries to kill him, and Gabriel has attempted to unalive himself via Walker but couldn't bring himself to do it. When he gets back to Alexandria, Spencer asks him to close the gate, and being so wrapped up in the guilt that's been weighing on him, he leaves the gate partially open. Later, Carol gives Rick another gun that she smuggled out of the armory, and Rick heads home. We get another moment between Rick and Michonne that only serves to add to the foundation of their budding relationship.
We lied to you because I wasn't sure how you'd take it. What you do.
You think I try to stop you?
I was afraid you'd talk me out of it. You could have.
We don't need them here. I don't need my sword. I think you can find a way. We can find a way. And if we don't, I'm still with you.
Michonne tells him that a town meeting will be held that night, and that Deanna wanted to give everyone, including him, a chance to be heard. At this point, whenever the better part of Rick tries to take over, the Savage overpowers him to present proof of why he can't go back to the way it was.
There wasn't a guard on the gate. It was open.
He tells the Alexandrians that there are others out there who will take everything they have if they don't open their eyes and realize that they need to be on guard, that they need to be able to fight. As he is speaking, Pete, who had been forced to leave his home, shows up intoxicated and wielding Michonne's sword. He heads towards Rick, shouting that he doesn't belong there.
Hey, stop! Get out! Get your hand!
Rick. Do it.
Rick?
Rick, we're not ready!
I don't take chances anymore, and you should.
Tell you about those guys he met. W's. We need more watch points. And I'm gonna tell Deanna we don't need to go looking for people anymore.
Feel different about it?
Yeah, I do. We're not gonna bury killers inside these walls.
I'm a killer, Rick. I am, and you are too.
Maybe we just leave him here.
That's not who you are. I know.
Hey. You don't.
So all the while, the walkers have been drawn by the sound. They're making more sound and they're drawing more in.
And here we are.
She's in charge. You're in charge now.
You heard.
I didn't. I mean,
Carter?
didn't.
You really think you're gonna take this community from us? From Glenn? From Michonne? From Daryl? From me? Do you have any idea who you're talking to?
I wanted to kill him. So it would be easier. So I wouldn't have to worry about how he could screw up or what stupid thing he'd do next, because that's who he is. Just somebody who shouldn't be alive now. I wanted to kill him. But all that hit me, and I realized I didn't have to do it. He doesn't get it. Somebody like that, they're gonna die no matter what.